You ever seen an uncut diamond, Studs?
Just smile, Loretta, so you don't look like you're being held up.
Damn it, Jack, put the gun down!
The film opens with Jack Foley, a convicted bank robber, storming out of an office building in Miami, Florida. In frustration, he rips off his tie and throws it to the ground. When he notices a SunTrust bank across the street, he impulsively decides to rob it. Calmly observing the people inside the bank, Jack proceeds with the robbery. He heads to the front desk and tells the cashier that his partner is the man sitting across the table with the bank manager. He threatens that if she doesn't comply, his partner will kill the manager first and then her. Terrified, the cashier gives him the money before retreating into the corner. Jack reassures her that she did well and leaves the bank.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
On his way out, he exchanges polite gestures with the man he calls his partner, who is a regular bank customer. After robbing the bank, Jack heads to his car, which fails to start, and he is soon arrested by 2 police officers. With a flashback to 2 years ago, we see Jack, who was imprisoned at Glades Correctional Facility in Florida. After participating in a game of inmate basketball, he takes a break and sits down. Observing the older, long-term inmates around him, he silently vows that he will not end up like them. Among the other inmates, Chino and Lulu jog around the prison yard. After their run, Jack briefly converses with them and learns about their plans to escape from the prison. He finds out they've advanced their schedule due to the facility constructing a new security fence outside the existing perimeter, extending beyond their current tunnel's exit point. Jack then informs a guard about the escape plot, instructing him to meet in the prison chapel later that night for more details. Following this, Jack calls his ex-wife Adele, with whom he maintains a good relationship. He asks her to send his robbery friend Buddy Bragg to pick him up that night. Adele worries they might get caught while trying to flee, but Jack assures her he has other plans. The scene shifts to Miami, where U.S. Marshal Karen Sisco has lunch with her father, a retired U.S. Marshal. He gifts her a Sig Sauer P232 pistol for her birthday. He expresses concerns about her relationship with the married Ray Nicolette, another U.S. Marshal. Uncomfortable with the topic, Karen changes the subject and mentions that she needs to visit Glades Correctional Facility later that evening. That night, Karen arrives at the prison just as Jack's partner, Buddy Bragg, also pulls in. Inside, Chino and Lulu begin their escape while Jack waits in the prison chapel. The guard Jack had tipped off earlier shows up, and Jack instructs him to monitor the other side of the fence for escapees. As the guard turns to watch the yard, Jack strikes him from behind with a vase and knocks him unconscious. Meanwhile, Karen, still in her car, notices inmates emerging from the escape tunnel and immediately alerts the tower guard. 4 men come out of the tunnel, and the tower guards shoot 2 of them on sight. During this time, Chino and Lulu manage to flee into darkness. Moments later, Jack emerges from the tunnel, dressed in the correctional officer's uniform. He assures the other guards rushing to the escape point that the tunnel is transparent. Meanwhile, Karen, now armed with a shotgun, becomes distracted by Jack. This allows Buddy to approach her from behind, grab her, and shove her into the car's trunk. Jack climbs in with her, and Buddy drives them away to safety. While in the trunk, Karen warns him of the consequences of kidnapping a U.S. Marshal. Jack then tells her she must not have recognized him and proudly boasts of his criminal activities. Karen remarks he must think of himself as a hero like Bonnie and Clyde. Jack seems interested when the movie's subject arises because he loves cinema. Sharing a mutual love for the film, the pair unexpectedly begin to develop a crush on each other.
You were at a bar, and I came up. We started talking. You sure are easy to talk to.
However, their conversation is cut short when Bobby stops at a highway underpass to meet fellow convict Glenn Michaels, who has a getaway car ready for them. Jack emerges from the trunk, but Karen starts firing from inside with the gun her father had given her earlier. Jack swiftly shuts the trunk and locks her inside. He then offers Karen an ultimatum: surrender or Buddy will use her own shotgun to apprehend her. With no other options, Karen gives up, and Jack handcuffs her and places her in Glenn's car. While Jack and Buddy converse outside, Karen recollects Glenn from a prior prisoner transport task and convinces him to flee with her to avoid trouble for assisting a fugitive. Persuaded by her words, Glenn drives off with Karen, leaving Buddy and Jack behind. The pair then returns to Miami, where Buddy has an apartment. In her dream, she finds Jack preparing for a bath and getting in. Suddenly, she appears with a gun and discovers him in the tub. Shortly after, Jack opens his eyes. Karen jumps into the tub with him, and they end up intimate. The scene suddenly cuts as Karen wakes up in a hospital bed. Her father is by her side, and her inexperienced boss, Daniel Burden, arrives to inquire about the incident. Karen explains that she had encountered Glenn years ago during a prisoner transfer and used that connection to convince him to abandon Buddy and Jack. However, they argued about the best route to Miami, leading Karen to grab the steering wheel. This resulted in the car crashing into a barrier at a highway off-ramp, knocking her out. Though Burden is doubtful, he decides to let it go. Meanwhile, at Buddy's apartment, Jack searches through Karen's purse. Buddy wants to leave town immediately, but Jack wants to see Karen again. He calls her at home, and she tries to persuade him to turn himself in. When Buddy speaks in the background, Karen recognizes his voice. Jack then hangs up after realizing she might figure out their location by tracking the apartment address. He realizes they're running out of time because he once told Chino about his ex-wife, Adele, and where she lives. He suspects Chino will come looking for him, there to seek revenge for almost ruining their escape plan. He also knows the U.S. Marshals will soon find Adele too. So Jack and Buddy decide to warn Adele before heading to Detroit. When the pair arrive at Adele's place, Jack sees Karen getting out of her car to meet his ex-wife. Relieved that Adele is safe, they head back to the apartment to get ready to leave town. Meanwhile, Chino also finds Adele. While Karen questions Adele about Jack, Chino arrives, pounds on the door, and breaks in. Karen swiftly arrests him and informs the headquarters about the incident. She then demands to be on the task force led by her boss Burden, who is searching for Jack and Buddy. Back at Buddy's apartment, as Jack and Buddy prepare to leave for Detroit, Burden and his team arrive to apprehend them. However, he orders Karen to stay in the lobby as a lookout. At the same time, they head upstairs to Buddy's room. Unbeknownst to them, Buddy and Jack have already taken the elevator to the parking garage. When the elevator stops in the lobby, Karen and Jack unexpectedly see each other. He waves, briefly surprising her, and she lets them leave without alerting anyone. Jack and Buddy then reach their car and drive out of town. In the next scene, we see Jack's friend Glenn with Maurice Snoopy Miller, another former inmate in Detroit. Snoopy, a professional boxer, was one of Jack's former inmates who organized boxing matches. He used his power to provide Ripley, a wealthy white-collar criminal from Detroit, with the things he needed and sold them to him at high prices. One day, Foley saves Ripley from being extorted by boxer Maurice Snoopy Miller, leading Ripley to promise Foley a job on the outside. He also brags about a cache of uncut diamonds hidden at his home. After his release, Foley turns up at Ripley's office, but is only offered a menial security guard position. He confronts Ripley to complain, but Ripley insults Foley and throws him out of the building right at the movie's beginning.
I'm disappointed in you.
Good. Hey, here we go. What job did he promise you boys?
Back to the now, they plan to rob Richard Ripley, a wealthy ex-inmate who has $5 million in uncut diamonds at his home in Detroit. Snoopy then has his associate, his brother-in-law Kenneth, and his henchman, White Boy Bob, prepare for the robbery. While driving around town, Snoopy bullies Glenn and takes over as the leader of the heist. To prove his loyalty, Glenn has to help Snoopy and his gang kill a rival drug dealer. Reluctantly, Glenn goes along with it, but is horrified by the experience. After the murder, they head to the local gym. Jack and Buddy, who are also aware of the heist, find them there and agree to assist them in the robbery so that they can share the stolen amount. In the meantime, Karen also arrives in Detroit and meets with Agent Raymond Cruz, who is investigating the murder committed by Snoopy and his gang. He gives Karen Snoopy's address, and she talks to his sister. Although Snoopy's sister hasn't seen him in months, she knows he loves boxing and might be at the State Theater matches the next night. Later, we see Jack and Buddy watching Ripley's apartment.
There's a chance we'll walk out of there with nothing. I say, let fate decide.
They put a gun on you, you still have a choice.
That night, Jack unexpectedly shows up at Karen's hotel.
And I came here to call in a customer, but they gave me a hard time because I'm a girl.
They share a drink and spend a romantic night together. They agree to forget their identities for the night and resume the game of cat and mouse in the morning. The following day, Karen wakes up alone, but Jack leaves her Sig's Sauer pistol, which he took from her in Florida as a keepsake. Glenn sits with Snoopy's gang at the State Theater that night for a while before heading to the bathroom. He is haunted by the drug dealer's death, grows scared, and tries to leave Detroit. Although he successfully sneaks out of the theater, Karen waits for him outside. Glenn confesses to Karen that he fears Snoopy and wants to escape. He also reveals Snoopy's plan for a diamond heist, leading Karen to let him go. Meanwhile, at the State Theater, Jack and Buddy join Snoopy's gang, which includes White Boy Bob and Kenneth. Snoopy decides they will rob Ripley's house that night, and they set off to carry out the heist. Unbeknownst to them, Karen is secretly following them. Upon reaching Ripley's house, White Boy Bob pretends to be a plumber and enters the house, followed by the others. They demand to know the location of Ripley. After some intimidation, Midge, the housekeeper, directs them to Ripley's bedroom, where a safe is located. After failing to shoot open the safe, they force Midge to reveal the combination. However, upon opening the safe, they find only Ripley's wigs inside. Meanwhile, Jack searches other rooms in Ripley's house for the diamonds and discovers Ripley hiding in the bathroom, attempting to call 911. Buddy joins them, and Ripley tells them the diamonds are in the fish tank. Jack then encourages his partner to take the diamonds and leave before Snoopy and his gang catch up. He spares Ripley's life after acknowledging their previous relationship at the prison. Jack instructs Buddy to drive off when they secure the diamonds in their van. He stays behind to stop Snoopy and his goons from attacking Midge. Buddy tells him to be cautious, gives him a gun, and drives away. Jack then returns to the house and finds Kenneth attempting to assault Midge. When Kenneth opens fire, Jack shoots back and seriously injures him. As he turns, White Boy Bob appears at the foot of the stairs with his gun. However, he accidentally slips while coming up the stairs and fatally shoots himself. Moments later, Snoopy arrives and shoots at Jack but misses. When both men run out of ammunition, they engage in a tough physical battle. Snoopy, skilled in boxing, gains the upper hand and moves to retrieve White Boy Bob's gun, while Jack heads back to the bedroom for Kenneth's gun. Thankfully, Karen arrives at the scene and shoots Snoopy dead. She then orders Jack to surrender for good, but he emerges from the bedroom with a gun. Jack challenges her to shoot him after realizing that he will have to return to prison once again. Unable to do so, Karen shoots him in the leg and handcuffs him to the staircase. Shortly after, police officers arrive and take Jack into custody. The following day, Karen prepares to transport Jack to prison in Florida in a police van. Another prisoner named Hengara Henry joins them in the van and casually informs Jack that he's escaped from jail 9 times before. It turns out that Karen deliberately paired Jack with the escape artist. The movie ends as she smiles and drives off toward Florida.